8 Tory candidates now admit to using drugs. Now, before we begin, I have to say I have a very libertarian outlook on drug use. I think the prohibition on alcohol in the 1920s in America was a complete failure. I think the war on drugs, the prohibition of recreational drugs in the West has been a complete failure. How often do you hear about a drug addict giving up drugs just because drugs are illegal? Look, it just doesn't happen. If you look to countries where there's been a liberalisation of drug laws, it's really interesting what the data shows. Portugal is probably one of the best examples of this. Quite interestingly, since the liberalisation of drug laws in Portugal, there's actually been a decrease in the amount of drugs taken. There's been a reduction in the amount of blood-borne infectious diseases. There's been more private charities getting involved, helping people rehabilitate and get off drugs. There's less of a social stigma, so people are more likely to come forward and say, hey, look, I've got a drug addiction problem. What can you do to help me? It's only positives. What seems to happen, what the data seems to show, what happens when countries liberalise their drug laws. But look, I'm happy to debate whether you think drugs should be illegal, they should be prohibited, or if you have a libertarian outlook on me, or whether you're a statist and you think it's the government's job to say what chemicals you can and cannot ingest into your body. That's by the by. But in UK politics at the moment, we have a very interesting scenario. We have 8 potential Tory leader candidates who have stepped forward saying that they've taken drugs in their past. Let's take a quick run through of the candidates we have here. So we have Micheal Gove, who says he has used cocaine on several occasions. Boris Johnson, in a GQ interview in 2007, admitted to trying cocaine and cannabis at university, but he said it had no effect on me. On Have I Got News for You in 2005, Johnson said, I think I was once given cocaine, but I sneezed, and so it did not go up my nose. In fact, it may have been doing icing sugar. Well, I think Boris Johnson really needs to clarify if that was icing sugar or cocaine. We have a potential future Prime Minister here. He's going to be in charge of the red button. He could turn the entire globe to a desert if he presses that nuclear red button, but he's not too sure if he's done cocaine or if it was icing sugar. I think Boris Johnson is really going to have to clarify on that one. We have Andrea Leadsom, Dominic Raab, Matt Hancock and Esther McVey, who have all admitted to smoking cannabis either in their youth or at university. And 2 other interesting ones. We have Rory Stewart, who said he smoked opium in Afghanistan. I'm a little bit more sympathetic for that because, A, if you're not in the UK where drug laws are different, you're in Afghanistan and it's the social norm to smoke heroin. It's actually a slightly different scenario. It's just a cultural norm out there. And we also have Jeremy Hunt, who then again says, I think I had a cannabis lassie when I went backpacking through India. Again, cultural norm, more or less depending on where you are in India. So a little bit more sympathetic to those 2. But we have the other Tory candidates who just admit taking drugs inside the UK. We also have Sian Berry, who's the co-leader of the Green Party, who said she took cocaine at university. But the real problem I had with this is not so much these people coming forward and saying this. As I say, I'm a libertarian on drug use. I literally don't care what chemicals people ingest into their body. What I am concerned about is the hypocrisy of a lot of these people. If they want to say, yes, they took drugs in their youth, then yes, you need to step forward. You need to be pushing for the reforms in drug laws or possibly legalization or at least decriminalization of drugs. If you're just going to be a hypocrite and say, yes, I took drugs in my past, but I don't think other people should take drugs, that's just a very hypocritical stance to come from. And it's not that surprising why in UK politics we have so many MPs whose constituents have voted for Brexit, yet they are just turning their backs on them because it's this level of hypocrisy. It's okay for these certain people to have taken drugs because they're politicians and they're smart and they know better, but the plebs, the poor people in society, you shouldn't be taking drugs. You're too stupid. We're the MPs. We know better. We can take drugs where and when we like, but the poor, the plebs, the schmucks in society, you can't be taking drugs because you're too ignorant. That's exactly the same as what we're seeing in Brexit. MPs going against the will of the people because they know better. It's exactly the same as what we're seeing in these drug use. If any of these Tory leaders want to come out and pushing for the legalisation or decriminalisation of drugs, then yeah, fair play to them. I'll stand behind them 100%. I'm not even a drug user myself, but from my libertarian standpoint, I don't think it's up to the government to say what you can and cannot ingest into your body. Is this just a isolated scenario? Is it just a small number of these Tory MPs that have been taking drugs, or is this a wider problem? Now, we have an article here from the Daily Mail. It's an older article, it's from 2013, but the corridors of powder, drug scandal at the House of Parliament after traces of cocaine are found on toilets across Palace of Westminster. Traces of Class A drugs were found in 9 toilets throughout the Palace of Westminster. the meetings place of the UK's political elite. The powder was detected in toilets used by guests at Parliament's bars, as well as cubicles a few hundred yards away from MPs' offices, areas where members of the public are restricted from going. So this isn't members of the public taking drugs into these private toilets in the Houses of Parliament. This is a restricted area, so it's either MPs or civil servants or people that essentially work in the Palace of Westminster. The drug use was uncovered using cocaine indicator swabs, which come up with blue blotches when rubbed on surfaces where the drug has been laid out in lines, such as toilet seats and hairdryers. The swabs are used by the police and customs officers. As Parliament's toilets are cleaned regularly, the white powder must have been snorted in the past few hours, according to the reporters from The Sun who did the testing. So what do you think about this? Cocaine seems to be being used in the Houses of Parliament, Palaces of Westminster. Is this, well, it's 2013, so maybe they've cleaned up their act since then. But we also have other data here. This is actually even an older story. Obviously, it's very hard for these stories to come to light. It does take some secret squirrel investigation journalism to come up with this stuff. This is from EU Observer. Cocaine use regular in MPs' toilets. Systematic controls of 46 toilets in the European Parliament have revealed traces of cocaine, according to German TV magazine AKTE05, 5 years after the same reporters found cocaine traces in German Parliament. So we now have cocaine use in Brussels, in German Parliament and in UK Parliament. The quantities found in MPs' toilets imply regular use, according to the German TV show, revealing the findings last night. Some of the quantities found would have caused a police drug dog to respond, said the pharmacologist Professor Fritz Sorgel from the Institute of Biomedical and Pharmaceutical Research in Nuremberg, who analysed the samples. In total, 41 of the 46 surface swabs taken at the European Parliament buildings, A to H in Brussels, contained traces of the highly addictive drug. In one room, the concentrations were so high that there was only one possible explanation. Cocaine had been consumed there just before the samples were taken. I'm sure a systematic control would unveil cocaine everywhere, said Professor Sergel to Spilgi, how you pronounce that, online. Therefore, I'm not at all surprised cocaine has been found in the European Parliament. Okay, so he's saying that, drug use is essentially ubiquitous. But if drug use is ubiquitous, why is it illegal? If we're saying, yes, there's cocaine in the European Parliament, there's cocaine in Westminster, there's cocaine in the German Parliament. Yes, it's everywhere. You can go to any toilet in any pub in the UK and you'll find samples of or traces of cocaine there. Yes, but well then just decriminalise it. If cocaine's just being used everywhere, you have several Tory leaders all taking cocaine. There's cocaine in the European Parliament. Just legalise it. Just legalise it. It doesn't make any sense. And the big hypocrisy is this is data from the Ministry of Justice. And look, drug offences. 15% of prisoners in UK jails are there for drug offences, whether that's for possession, whether that's for dealing. Look, just legalise it. Just legalise it. Because, so in first place, you've got violence. VATP stands for violence against the person. It's violent crime, sexual offences, and then drug offences at 15%. So you're talking thousands and thousands of prisoners who are in jail. But these politicians don't care because, yes, they're just poor people. They're just, people that in many cases didn't really have other options besides being a drug dealer. If they wanted to succeed, or not succeed in life, but if they wanted money, they couldn't just become an MP on £70,000-80,000 a year. They had to go through more questionable means, i.e. being drug dealers. Some of these people were in there just for possession. So this is a ridiculous scenario. Many of these Tory leaders now, and these aren't the only ones. These are the ones that are just coming forward because they know if they don't come forward, someone's going to smear them in the future. Obama did this. When Obama came out and said he smoked cannabis and took a little blow in college, he had to come out saying that because he knew other people knew. So they were going to smear him. So it's better you preempt the smearing and come out yourself. I think drug legislation in the UK is ridiculous. It's clear that drug use is just ubiquitous. That comes from me. I don't even take drugs, but I don't think the state should be telling you what you can and cannot ingest into your body. It's ridiculous we're in this scenario now where all these Tory potential leaders are coming out admitting to drug use, yet we're still perpetuating the failed war on drugs. It's absolute insanity, in my opinion. Let me know your thoughts on this one. Should we just legalise drugs, be done with it, go down a path like Portugal with a more sensible approach to drugs, or should we just continue this failed war on drugs And who knows where it's going to end up leading us. Just thousands and thousands of more poor people in jails, and while the rich elite politicians just get away with taking cocaine, get away with smoking cannabis, and it's okay for them because they know better. Jason from Liberty Bunker signing off, and I'll see you in the next video.